questions. But during is like a bit difficult for me. I really want to explain it, and I will always get distracted. I'm like, oh, that's a very interesting question, and then I get lost. Yeah. Yeah.
Zo? Ja, jawel, maar ik probeer een beetje
zo
mooi mogelijk beeld te maken. Ja? Ja, hij loopt.
Okay. So yeah, this talk is about what I think is the best proof for the lost civilization. I call it the empirical method because I like empirical research methods. And as instructions for this class, I'm a teacher, so these are kind of the instructions. You can say yes, I'll do exactly what the teacher says, or no, I'll just remember. It's what my kids do in class also. Remember then if you're not writing down, remember important data and write and remember your questions. The goal of the talk is to show the evidence for the lost civilization. But I think it's too easy to just throw evidence in there without showing where the more regular, the more mainstream theories have faults in them. And I really want to show a connection between the two, you know? So I think that's an important thing. If you say, okay, this science is the better science than the regular science, or they're having stuff wrong, you need to show where it's wrong and show how your solutions or your investigations or whatever create more clarity in these things where regular theory has difficulty to explain what's going on. I want to explain one word. Megalithic is just multi-ton stones. It's like really big stones. First, of course, you can't have this kind of lecture or a talk without the Giza pyramids. And I just heard from a student of mine that they're the last of the old world wonders still standing. And what does it consist of? The components are limestone blocks, same limestone blocks as the Giza plateau. That's what it's mainly built of. And then you have an outer casing that's built with different limestone blocks or granite blocks. And then you have an internal structure. You can see the internal structure of the Giza pyramid, and it's dressed with granite blocks, some weighing up to 80 tons. The orientation of the pyramids on the Giza plateau are oriented exactly at true north. It's only 2 arch seconds of exact, aligning exactly with north, south, east, west, because it's a square. The precision is the sides of the pyramid are almost the same in length. The difference is only a few centimeters for each side. And the plateau was also leveled and dressed with beautiful basalt, but also leveled, extremely level. So there's high precision in pyramids, and what's also to be found is certain geometrical constants. And then of course the question becomes, are these constants a coincidence, or because of the high precision would they be a result of deliberate geometrical principles incorporated in these pyramids? And there's a lot of debate about this, but regular theory says mostly says no, it's a coincidence. Good. Why all the fuss about these heaps of stone? The mainstream theories and now I'm zooming in on how they were built. The mainstream theories say they were built with ramps and used copper tools, and the Egyptian that the Egyptians had at their disposal, so copper tools. Stone hammers, stuff like that. They weren't in the Bronze Age. There's written evidence, but this written evidence is no account. There are no accounts of how they directly built. No direct accounts of them building the pyramids. It's all Herodotus came there. I don't know, 300 BC or something, and yeah, explained how they moved stones, but it's not an account of how they built the pyramid. And there are other pieces of evidence about how they built stuff, but there's no account of how they, like, this is how we built the pyramid. There's no account like that. And there becomes, like, it becomes a little bit difficult then, because you cannot date stone itself. The stones in the pyramid, you cannot date when the stone was put in place. If you date the stone, it's like 300 million years old. Yeah, okay. You don't know when they cut it. So it's all becomes like not direct evidence. So there are many alternative theories, and why so many? Well, because it's like this huge, very interesting structure, and yeah, the question is it possible to build such a structure with stone and Bronze Age techniques? And this question is difficult to answer because no one has ever rebuilt a pyramid. So you can never have like this definitive empirical proof like, yeah, it is possible to build it with bronze tools. There were attempts though, we'll get back to them. Because first I want to introduce you maybe, or reacquaint you with Sacsayhuamán in Peru. How many of you knew this building before like me telling you? Two.
I did, but yeah.
Two, okay, yeah. Yeah, so, but that's for me a very interesting thing, because this is the most astonishing megalithic building in the whole of the Americas. They're huge rocks, I think it's a hard type of limestone, and they weigh up to 100 tons, and they fit together perfectly. And allegedly, this was built by the Inca. So for me, this was a very interesting thing. So at my hogeschool, I asked, like, can I do like my final graduating papers on this subject? And they were like, no, okay. I was like, yeah, sure? Yeah, we're sure. Okay, then I will go for it. But yeah, once I explained that I was going to like tackle the mainstream theories about the Incas building this, they said, yeah, you can't just do that. You have to like have some framework. And therefore, I read a few books about philosophy of science and the empirical cycle of research. And this empirical cycle works in this way. First you have like an observation, and about that observation you have a theory about why this phenomena occurs. And that's your induction. Then you make a theory, and then from that theory you deduce, well, if the theory is true, then this specific thing, if we test it, will turn out false, or it will verify. So you can do a test that will verify or falsify your hypothesis. And the more a hypothesis are verified, the more stronger your theory becomes. And good hypotheses are very falsifiable, and only have like one or two things that can happen that will verify the theory. And then when that thing happens, you're like, this has to be true. So that's like the empirical method. So, and after the testing, you must evaluate if it's like verified, falsified, and if the tests were viable. So. Also, I had to use, of course, the geographical method, because I was learning to become a geography teacher. So these are the important questions, and they're like very empirical and very basic, rudimentary questions for the geographical research method. You start small, and then you compare to the rest of the world, and then you try to form a theory. First, it's very concrete. You really look at the images, and then you have like some meta-analysis, and you come with a more abstract main theory for explaining the phenomena. So what are the mainstream theories for building megalithic architecture in the Andes? And this is the tested hypothesis. Is it possible to build Sacsayhuamán and Ollantaytambo, it's a structure like Sacsayhuamán, with Inca technology? And the researchers that I'm quoting here are also the researchers quoted in most mainstream sources, and they explain the building of Sacsayhuaman and Ollantaytambo in their books, and they are quoted in sources that are linked to Wikipedia, and it shows that this is the mainstream. This is the mainstream consensus, and these are the sources which the consensus is built upon. So there's empirical evidence of a fieldwork in which they test their theories about which they write in their books. And it's to be seen in the Nova documentary Secrets of the Lost Empires, Inca. So here they test their theories in a fieldwork. And so through this fieldwork, we can observe, is it indeed possible to build these structures with Inca techniques? And there's an interesting, how much can such a fieldwork verify or falsify this hypothesis? And it's really difficult to have absolute falsification, because that you didn't succeed to rebuild this building. It doesn't mean that there aren't other possible Inca techniques that you don't know of, which can make this building. But it is important because this kind of field work shows the plausibility, how plausible it is that you can build a structure like that with Bronze Age, Inca, and Stone Age techniques. Is this kind of obvious? Yeah. So what is actually Inca technology? What was their technology? They had no wheel. They had no pulleys for that you become lifting becomes twice because you have one pulley, and you know that twice as light. And they didn't have this crane system like the Romans had, this tripod crane system for lifting stuff. They had no iron tools. They were in Bronze Age, and they had no heavy animals for lifting. No mathematics. I don't think that's very important actually. So, anyways, the test for transporting the stones was filmed. I'll show the little film. So this is the first stone, weighs 1,000 kilograms, and they're trying to take it from the quarry to the building site, but it falls down the hill because they have no flat, nice route for the stone. This is a stone that was actually used by the megalithic builders, and they're moving it across a flat surface in the village with 250 people. But the stones are up the mountain, and these weigh 45 tons, so 45,000 kilo. And I want to emphasize that it's not impossible to do it. You can, if you have enough people and the ramp is the slope is not super steep, you can drag giant stones. But I want to point out this is a logistical. It gives a logistical impression, and it's therefore important to take into account what does it really take to build such structures. No, it doesn't go to the next dia in a nice way somehow. Yeah. So this is a test for cutting the stones, and what you can see here is that Jean-Pierre Protsen, which is one of the guys quoted in the mainstream, is using a dolerite river cobble to pound the stone, and then place a stone that has to fit on top of it, on top of the surface, and then wiggles it a bit and stuff like that, and then it creates abrasive marks, and there's the surface still lifted too much, and then he takes smaller and smaller stones to cut it. But there's a little issue with this, and that's that he's lifting the stone 100 or 1,000 times with his hand. It's a bit of an issue when you've got stones that weigh 25,000 kilograms. And only one side is cut, only the bottom is cut. And I just want to note this result. I think it's a nice result, and it really shows that probably also the Inca were capable of this. So it's important to keep in mind, and we'll compare it to the megalithic stuff. So this is a test for cutting and placing the stones by Vincent Arlee, which is also quoted. And he uses a scribe so that he can make, it's a sort of method to make sure two surfaces fit nicely, that the angles are perfect, because it has to fit into two places. And here also we have to note the result. It goes really quickly. This is how a real megalithic wall looks, and this is the result from cutting it in the way they proposed. They used iron chisels steel chisels to speed up the work, which is of course not a use of Inca tools. This only the front is fitting, and also it's still crumbly compared to the megalithic stuff. So this is placing the stones in the Nova documentary. What you see here is that the theory is that they lifted it up on tree logs, and then through guiding it with ropes and replacing the tree logs, slowly maneuver the stone into the appointed location. What happens here? It's a 500 kilogram stone. You can see it falls. It falls. They don't transport it in the right way. Now they use a tree log to stomp it into place. Again, this will be a bit, I think, dangerous and difficult with a stone that weighs 500 times as much. But this is how this is how the mainstream theory portrays it, and this is the actual fieldwork that goes with this mainstream theory. That's what I wanted to say here. So if you evaluate this fieldwork, you should say were the tests valid, and there is the size of the stones were different. There was a different precision, but I would more say that that's did the tests were they verified, because it's more a falsification if the precision is not achieved, so it's not possible to achieve such precision. Different tools were used, not bronze tools, so the tests weren't a valid test to begin with in that way. So the question is, how did they do this without cranes and pulleys? So did the test verify or falsify the hypothesis? The hypothesis of is it possible to build such strong structures with Bronze Age techniques? And if you compare it, the size and precision is just absolutely not achieved, and the transportation makes it a crazy logistics. It shows there's a lot of work, and it's really dangerous with logs. It would be, and therefore I would say is it a plausible proposition? Okay, let's set out to build this. It will take us I don't know how many years and people's lives and lots of dangerous work. And you can build with smaller stones, and with you can build this with smaller stones. It just why is the question. Why would you propose something as mad as this if done with these techniques? This is just a part of Ollantaytambo, which is the structure that looked like Sacsayhuaman. It's also in Peru. It's on a mountain slope. Here you can see the precision, how precise it all fits. This is, I believe, andesite. It's a type of rock. And the stuff in Sacsayhuaman was limestone, but on the other side of Ollantaytambo is a part they call the Sun Temple, and it's made of granite. So they just used any type of stone for making these buildings, hard stone types and soft stone types. So now I want to go to the mainstream explanation for building pyramids. And what kind of building techniques and tools did the Egyptians have? They had no pulleys, wheels, or steel tools, and it's assumed that with rollers they pushed along stones. What is the theory for building the pyramids? Did they build it in 10 years or 20 years? It differs, and that would mean that they placed 2.5 tons of stone every few minutes, highly precise, creating the precision we saw in the first or third slide, I'm not sure. Herodotus says it was a workforce of slaves, but now first that was the idea, but now they've really changed to no, there were thousands of highly skilled workers. There are basically two threads of evidence I want to point out. There's this critical paths analysis. It's a model for building structures that they used to explain it. It comes to this 10 years conclusion. I put 2 stars in it because there was lots of stuff here and I wanted to say why this analysis is, but I'm not even going to go there. You can look it up. I want to go for the empirical evidence. And the empirical evidence is again a documentary that Nova made. I'm not sure if it's findable. I'll explain what's up with this documentary. So the tested hypothesis is it possible to build an ancient Egyptian pyramid with the Bronze Age tools and techniques the dynastic Egyptians had at their disposal? And the researchers here in this, they were doing the field work of building a small pyramid, being filmed by Nova. These researchers were Mark Lehner and Zahi Hawass, which are like Egyptologists, and Zahi Hawass is the Minister of Antiquities, still in Egypt. I don't know if he's still minister, but for a really long time. And also there was Joseph Davidovits. And what it was interesting about this research, this research, this field work is regularly quoted in the mainstream sources, like Wikipedia. I know Wikipedia link here as evidence, but you can look it up, and it's like everywhere. Cool. So the empirical evidence is about when they made this documentary, and it's provided by Joseph Davidovits. And he's a really big scientist and lots of awards, and he's a chemist. So yeah, he's all into science. And his findings can be found in this document. So what are his findings? His findings, he's very critical about the field work. He's not happy about the methods used. They used modern tools, so they used, you can't see it on this slide. Okay, I could look it up, but they used steel chisels. There's pictures of it in the document in the previous slide. Yeah, I'm not going to look it up because of time. The stones were transported there first by like a truck or something, and then only pushed up the ramp. They made a little ramp to push up these stones. I want to point out the weight of the stones. They're a little smaller, and it's all like this soft limestone. It's no granite used. Because here the casing of the smallest of the 3 pyramids of the Giza plateau is made out of granite casing blocks. And also the internal structure of the Great Pyramid. Like this is the King's Chamber, and it's made of granite blocks that perfectly fit together. This is the way the small fieldwork pyramid was dressed, of course, by using the steel chisels. They dressed it like this, and you can see gaps in between the casing stones. And there are no gaps here, and there are no gaps between the stones of the Great Pyramid either. And it was never finished. Of course, the size is not the same in the direction, but they probably didn't set out to do it. But it is an important thing that all these things are in the pyramids on the Giza plateau. So, what is the overall evaluation of both fieldworks of these most megalithic structures on both sides of the Atlantic? And although the builders in the fieldwork used more modern tools, they still not could achieve anything close to the megalithic architecture, not in size and not in precision. And I think therefore the test falsified the previously plausible notion, because you could, when you think of it, maybe it's possible to build a pyramid with ramps in 10 years. But when you do the field work, major implications become apparent. Did the test falsify it? It falsified that it looks like a viable option. It showed at least borderline amount of work, precision, a crazy proposition again on both sides of the Atlantic. What I would say is that the supposed building techniques in the mainstream are not empirically proven. When you put it into practice, it just shows that, oh, this is like major implications. We better not say anything about how they were built. We have no clue. That would be the correct response. And therefore, with all this like non-direct, you cannot directly date stones. So with not this non-direct evidence, you can start observing again and start a new empirical cycle. Say, okay, what if we don't know who built them? Let's just look at the structures again from a blank sheet. I don't know how to exactly explain it. You get me? So these are the structures I'm going to zoom in on first. Peru, Sacsayhuaman, Ollantaytambo, we already looked at that. And Machu Picchu, we all know Machu Picchu, but it's a specific part in Machu Picchu. More about that later. And in Egypt, there's the Osirion. This is an image of the Osirion. And the interesting thing is, if you step into the water here, you will like sink, because it's like really deep there. And Pyramid of Menkaure, that's the third pyramid on the Giza plateau. And the 1.2 kiloton obelisk, that's an obelisk that's still in the quarry, and it weighs 1,200 kilograms. And what is the similarity between these structures? It's in that they're in both places, so in the Andes and in Egypt, they are compared to the surrounding structures, compared to the environment, they are the most the structures with the biggest blocks and the most precise fit and the hardest stones. And they have unique similarities that I will point out. First, a little bit more about the Osirion. This Osirion is made out of multi-ton blocks. This weighs like 80 tons or something. I'm not sure exactly, but in that range. It's pink granite from the Aswan stone quarry. It's the same quarry of the obelisk. It's the same quarry where the casing stones of the Great Pyramid or of the Menkaure Pyramid come from. This is the Temple of the Three Windows in Machu Picchu, and most of Machu Picchu is, you all have seen the pictures, it's made out of these kind of small stones with often with adobe mud in between. And this part is the Temple of the Three Windows. It's made of megalithic stones. So this is a megalithic part of Machu Picchu. And this is the Osirion in Egypt. And what you can see is actually the same like size, fit, and also the same indentation here. It's at the same location. So that's one important similarity. Then you have the same indentations here. This is the front of the Temple of the Three Windows. This is the Osirion again. Here I want to point at something that I called the scoop method. And I don't know if it was already out there, but people on Facebook suddenly started saying scoop method. So I liked it. I like to think that I thought it up. And what you see is like it seems like the stone is like scooped. Like it was, I don't know, with an ice cream scoop or something. Really strange, but anyways, I don't know how it was done exactly. But it's the same in the Osirion and Machu Picchu. This is Sacsayhuaman. This stone weighs over 100 tons. You can see here the same dents, and you can see them in the Osirion as well. More examples. Here we see Sacsayhuaman scoop method, the same scoop method thing. Here again the dents, Sacsayhuaman dents. These are like the biggest structures in both sides. Sacsayhuaman weighs like with 100-ton stones, and there's only one place in Egypt that is a temple with bigger stones, but we'll get there. The casing stones of the Menkaure Pyramid have the same indentations as this. And I want to point out that the other structures that are not the biggest megalithic, precisest structures do not have these indentations. So only these structures have these specific similarities. And also one is, there's something I couldn't point it out. Also the knobs. And actually the knobs are over the indentations, or there are no knobs and they're just indentations. Here you can see them, the knobs. They're the same, Sacsayhuaman pyramid. Machu Picchu has the knobs. Sacsayhuaman pyramid has the knobs. No, this is then more scoop methods. You can all see the similarities. This is the obelisk, the 1.2, like 1 million ton obelisk in the Aswan quarry. And here you can see Machu Picchu and Sacsayhuaman have the same texture. And you can see it's how the obelisk was quarried. Ollantaytambo, I already did this slide. Yeah, more scoop method and knobs. This is the Sun Temple of Ollantaytambo. It's made of rose granite, or granite, and this is also granite. Oh yeah, that's also a thing to mention. Lots of stuff in Egypt is like made of sandstone, and only a few things are made of this granite. More scoop methods. Ollantaytambo, Osirion. When does it end? This is more knobs. This is old pictures of the Osirion before they, what do you call it? Made the, what's it called? The dam in Egypt. I forgot the name.
Oh, okay, yeah.
The Aswan Dam? The Aswan Dam? Okay. Yeah, they made the Aswan Dam and then this filled up with water, is what I heard. But you can see here are the same knobs as Ollantaytambo and Sacsayhuaman and all the places. Pilacta is a place in Peru, and it has the same scoop method thing and also the knobs. This is a Sun Temple, and it's just wanted to show there are also knobs on just like this. This is also a granite wall. This is just I think the same stone, the same shape, same knobs. This black, what is it? Panther, cougar, I don't know, panther. What you see is not the actual color, but people think they made a panther deliberately. But I chose this one because it really highlights in a nice way the knobs and indentations that I could compare with the Giza pyramid and the third pyramid, Giza plateau, and Abydos. And Abydos is, I think it's just the Osirion. I don't know, it's like old slide. Okay, so then I wanted to throw this slide out, but a friend of me said, no, this is important as well. This is also a similarity, is that when you build a building, you just when you're at a corner, you put a stone like this, and you put a stone like this, and it's like, oh yeah, I got a corner, and then you put all the stone over it, and it becomes like sturdier. But here they just have stones that go around the corner, and it's the same in these granite temples in Egypt and these places in Peru. This is also a similarity how they made the window, but which is not a window, it's just a niche or something. Another around the corner. So what are the observations? Well, the observations is that these megalithic buildings that we looked at are like superior and alien to the surrounding architecture. Like it's different. It's really a different thing. And they have the highest precision, the biggest stones. They use the hardest stones. And the construction method of these buildings, as we've seen in the fieldwork analysis, are unverified. So why did they take so much work to build this? And maybe they didn't have to do so much work, and it was just not done in that way by these people. So the interesting thing is that these similarities that we looked at only occur on these buildings, and these are the knobs and the dents and the scoop marks, especially the scoop marks, on the biggest and the biggest and most precise. So, apart from some other examples, like the most clear, most similar, most abundant of these are found in Egypt and Peru. So in Egypt and Peru, we have like stuff is really difficult to explain empirically, and therefore they are not like clearly explained. And these have like the huge similarities. So yeah. So this is the theory that comes from that, from these observations. And it's a dispersion pattern of specific phenomena. That's a geographical way of describing it. And yeah, it's a group of advanced stone basins who are capable of crossing oceans. Like further than that, I cannot go yet. You know, I don't know what the rest will bring, because now we have a break and you can ask questions.